Okay, so I know I typically do videos outside, but I just wanted to make a quick video. Y'all know the book, If You Give a Mouse a Cookie? It's a book about gluttony. No, but it's a book that pretty much like, if you give a mouse a cookie, he'll want a glass of milk. It keeps going, right? So if you give him one thing, he's gonna want something else. I feel like reading is that way, or at least good reading is that way. So I've said multiple times that scholars and authors are typically in conversation with other scholars and authors, and we are jumping into that conversation and usually only getting a piece of it when we just read the one scholar. So it really deepens your reading experience, deepens your understanding and your thinking when you can read across multiple books or sources. So as you know, we're reading Rooted for my YouTube channel in connection to an art exhibit that I'm curating. But as I read it, I've started thinking about all these other incredible books that this one is in conversation with. So I wanted to just quickly recommend some of the other ones in case you are looking for more of this, things that are connected to this, and again, to deepen your thinking a little bit. So I got some books right here I want to share with you. So some of these books, Brea Baker explicitly cites, so I know she's in conversation. I know she's aware of them. Imani Perry is an example. She actually cites two different books from Imani Perry. I only have Black and Blues, but it's a great book. Again, I'm still working through it, but it tells the story of Black cultural identity and expression through the color blue and how it shows up in all of these really beautiful and interesting ways. And so Brea cites how Imani's work explores the relationship between self-emancipated people and water. For example, the Gullah Geechee communities in Georgia, they lived on water. When they escaped from enslavement, they found refuge in the water. And so that's an example of connection to land that kind of redraws our relationship to something that may have been used against us to something that is actually life-giving and freedom-giving. And so Imani Perry's work is really interesting. Obviously blue connects not just to water, but to the sky, to the practice of indigo dyeing, and people's arms are blue up to the arm. There's just a lot of beautiful stuff here. So I highly recommend that you read it. Again, I'm still reading through it, but it's been really great so far. Another book that Brea cites specifically is The Souls of Black Folks. Another really great book. It's by W.E.B. Dubois. I actually believe that every Black person should read this book. I read this book for the first time in undergrad, I think, like late in undergrad. And I remember thinking, why didn't I know this? There was so much in here that I didn't know about Reconstruction, about how Black people took the reins for ourselves. I knew a lot more about what the government did. I didn't know a lot about what Black people did for ourselves. And that's a really important part of the story. Again, it shapes our ideology of ourselves and our belief and what our people are capable of, and what the story and what the history is. So I highly recommend this along with Black Reconstruction. It goes in great conversation. I only have that copy digitally, but again, I highly recommend The Souls of Black Folk and Black Reconstruction. Both are by Dubois. And then I cited it today with the Miseducation of the Negro. In my latest video, we talk about how education is connected to land because people needed a place to put their schools. And so when they did not have access to land, they did not have access to schooling too. And even when they did have access to schooling, Black schools would close down to be aligned with the growing season. And so white farmers, and sometimes Black farmers too, would call for the Black schools to be closed so that the Black children could work on their farms as opposed to learn. So there's a lot of intersection between education and land, actually, historically and presently, that I think is really fascinating. But one thing that Brea says, and Audre Lorde says, and Carter G. Woodson talk about is the importance of a certain type of education. We can't just embrace the idea that all education is equal and all education is good for us and uplifting to our people. We need an education that is liberatory, which means we need an education that contradicts systems of oppression, systems of white supremacy, systems that normalize Black inferiority as if it's true or inherent, and it's not the case. So again, another really good book. Highly recommend you check that one out. Now, these ones are a bit interesting and perhaps more fun. It's technically, I guess, a coffee table book. It's called The Long Ride Home, Black Cowboys in America by Ron Tarver. And then there's an essay by Art T. Burton. And I mean, this whole thing, the theme of our exhibit as well as the book, is all about kind of reclaiming our relationship to the land, and knowing the history of Black cowboys is a huge part of that. It's a huge part of how some of our people engaged in the land and interacted with the land and the animals. There's so much beautiful imagery. Let me show you some of my favorites. Ooh, speaking of land, there's a lot of really beautiful imagery throughout the book, but then there's also this beautiful essay. So I highly recommend you check it out and get your copy. Love that one. Really cool picture. Here, let me see if I can focus it. There we go. Beautiful Black cowgirl, cowwoman. Yeah, but it just tells the a forgotten history of the Black cowboys, which was actually, it's almost redundant because cowboys wore initially black. And despite Western reimagining of cowboys were black. So really cool book, beautiful book. When we bought our land, we got this book not long after, just because it felt like an important part of the history that we were stepping into. Another cool, fantastic book, if you're already familiar with Nicole Hannah-Jones, she did the 1619 Project, and this is a massive book. I don't know if you can see size comparison, huge book. But what I love about this book, and it ties directly into land reclamation, is it shows pictures from history, like locations in the United States from history, and then what's going on present day. And historically, it would be like a slave auction block, and then presently it's now a convenience store or something. So it kind of talks about how land gets reimagined throughout history and different uses of land. And so we may see it one way, but it's actually functioned in multiple ways throughout history. Again, a lot of really incredible images throughout. Again, massive book. It lives on our coffee table in our living room. Let's see. Yeah, okay, so this is an example. So Pine and Fifth Streets in Macon, Georgia. I live in Georgia. In the 19th century, the slave trader John Josie arranged the sales of enslaved people from an office located here. So then we see kind of the modern, where it is modern day. So land and location and sites hold history, and when we acknowledge that history, we can better understand our place, where we belong, and why we might feel the way we feel in certain spaces. So again, if you're enjoying Rooted, these are some other books, coffee table books, photo books that you can check out. There's also some cool documentaries that maybe I'll put in the caption, but just a quick video today. Remember, just and a reminder that all of these amazing scholars are in conversation, and anytime we read is an opportunity to join that conversation and build our community of scholars and our knowledge overall. So I'll talk to y'all later.